I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I trust and pray that, like many of us, you're doing your very best to not only put a good foot forward, but with that smile in your heart, you find it to somehow find your lips and make it be that thing that resonates within our community. It's going to be so open line. I have a chair open for a good friend. Hopefully he'll be able to find his way. Valet parking doesn't work today. I have to call Mr. Rivers and see what's happening with that. But 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Yes. It's going to be open line. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us as we invite you to share your thoughts with us. Now, as we get on the way, we're anxious and grateful for the opportunity to share with Mr. Mario Rankin. I've poured him a nice, got a good friend to mix up a flavorful one of those, green juice smoothie kind of like thing. With all the good trimmings, I don't think better it hasn't really come from West Bay, but Mr. Rankin, my good friend, good afternoon to you, man.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to Radio Cayman's awesome listeners, who is the most loyalist of them all.
Hey, we believe in celebrating together. I was just gonna say that when we look at Cayman and we start to think of, where we are, and we think, we're on an island, and they say no man is an island. They say that as you look at things, many of us would recognize that there's a saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself. But equally, the notion that it's easier sometimes to accomplish things if you have people drawn alongside and working hand in hand. I was sharing with an elderly gentleman early this morning, and as he was telling me that unfortunately the Cayman context of today, not enough people are prepared to work hand in hand. They're not willing to engage and sometimes disagree because they want to move it forward in a better way, as productive as they can. And we acquiesce, we just give in because we don't want any kind of trouble. We don't want any kind of, sort of back and forth. We don't want to negotiate. We don't want to get in and engage and see how we can make it better. And I wonder sometimes, are we too easy and too willing to capitulate? Are we, sadly, for some of us, we don't want to give in because we're spoiled. We want our way. It's my way or no way. It's this way or the highway. And I wonder if it's the higher, the mark up, the light pole that is exposed, or is it the case the more power you think you wield, the more powerful you think you are?
Well, certainly I will say this, Sterling, and in defense of all of the persons who are willing to stand up and speak out for what they believe is in the best interest of the Cayman Islands without any fear of being victimized or criticized or attacked by unfortunately our own people. You know what's very interesting to me is that whenever a Caymanian speak up publicly for what they believe is right for Cayman or right for everybody in Cayman, or however their opinion varies, the fact that person, regardless of who they are, is willing to take that stance publicly without any fear or without any issues doing so because they know what the backlash would be. You know what's very concerning to me, and my greatest issue that I take with for those people who criticize, because the ones that criticize are those who are the quietest, those who are willing to accept what is going on, but yet they're the biggest complainers within their own confines of their walls. But they criticize people who get out and actually say something by saying, oh, well, we should stop complaining, or we should stop bringing up issues. So you telling me then, as if we live in a society that the system is broken and systematically creating issues that have morphed into social discomforts for our people, that we should be quiet?
But if that is a notion, and I hear what you're sharing, that there are those of us who, and sadly, those same people probably exert significant influence. They're quiet. They're behind the scenes.
Some of them, yes. Yeah. But one person in particular who I am speaking to, and they're listening, and I'm sure they're listening, because I put out a post on Facebook saying that I'd be on this show today at 12:15. And I know that they're listening, and this is specific for that person. We're not calling any names because we are high past the time that we're going to point out our fellow Caymanians. I appreciate their opinion. I appreciate their constructive criticism. But what I'm concerned most about is that I would expect for when somebody shares their opinion about whatever it is you're doing, instead of saying to you, oh, well, why don't you stop pointing out all of the issues that we have and come up with some solutions? Well, we've come up with many solutions. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to implement those solutions. Hence the reason why we create levels of awareness on platforms such as our local radio station, where I think any Caymanian should be welcome to come and express their opinion and their views and suggestions into solutions. So I challenge that person who's always in the wings waiting for somebody to make a comment publicly on Facebook or a social media platform to then jump on top of them, pounce on them to criticize. Well, why don't you crawl out from under that rock you're under and make whatever feelings you have public and get on the radio and make a difference? But no, you rather sit quietly in your place of business while reaping all the benefits of society, making sure that you say nothing publicly, politically about any party because you are in fear that you will become victimized within your place of business, and then you would have to then start from ground zero. However, the difference between Mario Rankin and all of those persons is that I've already gone through the washing ringer of victimization. They have taken all of my businesses and all of my resources, and they've taken all of my livelihood for the past 8 years, and it's public and it's in the public. You can go and read about it, but Mario's still here, still fighting the fight, still saying the same thing. So then, what is really my agenda if it's not to create a better Cayman and sustainable Cayman for all our Caymanian people? So now that we've done a little bit of house cleaning. All
right, well, there you go. Actually, you know what? So I was speaking to the little gentleman earlier, right? And unlike those of us who are maybe half his age, or even sometimes 10% of his age, not quite there yet. His education was at sea, like the men of his generation.
Right.
Travel the world.
Awesome set of people.
Yeah.
Awesome generation.
And sometimes they share little things with you that you realize, they didn't have it easy, but they had it a lot harder than they let on.
Correct.
And a lot harder than we appreciate. Right? Now, I'm not talking about just being at sea with typhoons and all sorts of things, but the close quarters that they were in, and the fights, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
The little bickerings that went on. So they had to manage people. And I had a chance, this was a difficult Christmas for a lot of us in many ways. Not just I'm talking financially, that's the least of it. And students are home, and some of the students, I think this is the stupidest system ever. Right? You go back after Christmas to sit exams that are important, right? And I would never attend a university system that has. I think it's the dumbest thing, right?
Right.
But I got friends that's where they are, because that's where they need to be in this jurisdiction in order to get the education that they want, right? Now, some people went through that and they say, "Oh, that makes you tough." No, I just think it just comes back to anyway. Leave that for me. Get off HS.
Good.
Because for me, when I become governor, I say this publicly, it'll be a national go-slow between the 23rd of December and about the 3rd or 4th of January.
Right.
It's just festivities and party. Just like when the seafarers used to come home. You know, if you eat beef, cook up the beef and stew up the turtle and thing.
You know, exactly. And it's for me, because I do a lot of reading of our history, because to have any good idea of where we want to go and where we want to be, we have to understand exactly where we come from,
right,
and what stock we have. And Cayman and Caymanians have come from a very good stock of people. I mean, an exceptionally great set of people we have come from. So for me, I just want to make sure that whatever contribution I make, Sterling, is positive, and that it's and that it's for the betterment of Caymanians, regardless if it's appreciated by a certain group of our society. That's fine, because you're gonna have your good and bad. I take my good with my bad. I know. I'm not sitting here. I'm not a complainer, and I have a lot to complain about, and I do not complain. What I do, and people may view it or misconceive what I'm saying in terms of complaining versus raising an issue. I'm not complaining, I'm just pointing out the issues that we have and pointing out possible solutions on how we can fix these things. When we see our government or our cabinet, regardless of who they are at the time, face a certain issue that might be putting one of our pillars at risk, we've seen government make extraordinary efforts to create certain legislation to prevent that. We've seen them done it before. We've seen them change certain things to make sure some things doesn't happen that wouldn't be in the best interest of our country. So then I ask the question, if education is a major problem, which we know, and if cost of living is a major problem, as we know, then why are we not taking those same sort of steps towards addressing those issues, which systematically affects everybody in society? Why are we not making that same sort of effort to fix those things? Because when we looked at when we take a strong look at our harvest of people, then what are we expecting to create in the future if we're not making sure that harvest is properly tooled up, properly educated, properly aware, and the succession planning must be on point and prioritized, so that we don't have a time slot in our history where we've failed so badly that it takes us 3 to 4 generations to repair it. And right now, as we currently sit, because of the absence of those kind of initiatives and prioritization of where we want to be, we're starting to see some failures within our social fabric, within our society, and within our people.
Well,
so,
as I listen to you, and you're talking, well, for those who are just joining us, that is the excellent voice of Mr. Mario Rankin, who is open line, and we want you to be a part of our discussion and heat it up. People need to engage. They need to be involved and informed. But as you were sharing it, I can hear the gentleman's voice now. He's saying, if you look at the size of our population, there is a concern, very much like when he was in his prime, of Caymanians leaving Cayman because the opportunities for their families and the opportunities for them to visit their families were easier. They could be based in, say, the U.S. somewhere, and every time they were in port, they could get from that particular port to wherever their families were. They were all on the Gulf Coast, right? Than it was to come back to Cayman. So they probably, for different reasons, opted to resettle over there. His concern is that the size of the Caymanian population and the fact that many of the young people are saying, I don't feel a sense of hope here for me for the future. I don't see an opportunity. I'm being further and further pushed to the margin. So maybe I'll just leave Cayman, and then we hear about the brain drain. But he's also even more, as he shared, fearful of the fact that the people who are here, Caymanian and non-Caymanian, will start to become agitated, and create a level of social unrest that's unprecedented.
Well, you're absolutely right. And when we talk about our seamen and what they've accomplished by going to sea and becoming engineers and all these different things, captains, and we look at our maritime history. Now, looking at our maritime history and where we've come from, and the contributions we've made to other countries in terms of being great mariners, and then on the cuffs of that, we now have one of the largest shipping registers in the world.
And by the way, Mr. Joel Walton, amazing individual.
And we have a stalwart Caymanian running that department. However, I think that and this is certainly not his remit or responsibility, but I think it's the country on a whole that should have had certain mechanisms in place that would have created platforms for Caymanians to continue that maritime greatness that we've done in the past, where we could have had certain accesses to institutions where we could have continued to go off to be captains and train up to be a part of that shipping registry. We could have been captains in a lot of those major yachts and different things. Just saying that's one area that we seemingly forgot about simply because maybe we are too caught up on different type of industries because we perceive them to be more lucrative. However, the maritime historical history that we have of our country have given Caymanians at a time when things were bleak and resources were non-existent an opportunity to travel around the world to experience different cultures and environments and get that level of experience. And I see with in this particular environment we're in now, we have the largest shipping registry in the world. Caymanians should also be taking advantage of that registry and being a part of what's going on. And I'm sure that Mr. Walton wouldn't have any issues with either spearheading or leading the charge on creating that platform. But that's just a suggestion for all of those who think that we don't have solutions or suggestions. And that's just one of many that I've shared on air. Now, when a person takes enough time to respond to something that you post or anybody posts negatively, how is that helping the situation? When so for me, practice what you preach. Don't be monkey see, monkey do, because that's just not the way forward. Caymanians we are a smart, resilient, intelligent people. We come from good stock, and it's time that we regain that reputation, as stewards of our country and stewards of our forefathers and carry that level of greatness forward once again. And it's not hard to do in Sterling.
No, man.
We just need people to believe in the cause. That's it.
That's it. Be good stewards for our future generations. All right, let's pause and take a short break. When you come back, we invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. It's only Thursday, the 16th of January. Man, look at how this world's problems are solved before the end of the day. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-TALK. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Run. Don't walk to Le Classique on Mary Street, where the final move-in sale is on. Hurry on down to Le Classique on Mary Street and do something sweet for your feet. Up to 75% off the entire store for 3 days only, where everything must go. That's right. Every shoe, every bag, every wallet, everything must go. All stock priced up to 75% off. Shoes priced as low as $10 and $15. All stock priced to go. Final moving sale at Le Classique on Mary Street this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Final blowout sale. See you there.
The Cayman Islands Seafarers Association would like to inform all members that there will be a general meeting on Tuesday, January 21st at 7:30 p.m. in the Seafarers Hall, 11 Victory Avenue, Prospect. Nominations are also now being held for the 2020-2021 Council. Transportation for the meeting will be provided as always, and there will be 3 buses from West Bay Town Hall leaving at 6 p.m. The Barnes bus route in Georgetown leaves the public library parking area at 6:45, stopping at Cayman Compass Building and the Airport Fosters. The bus marked Bobo $1 public transport and is blue in color will do pickups from British Caymanian, Uncle Bill's, Walker's Road, Shedden Road, and Crew Road. The bus from East End pickups are from the school parking, the gas station, and wreck of the 10 Sails starting at 5:45. North side pickups are from Chisholm Store and the soccer field starting at 6:15. Bottomtown pickups will be from Lorna's gas station at 6:45. Savannah pickups from the gas station next to Wendy's at 7.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255 in the studio. Enjoy next company of Mr. Mario Rankin. Hey, thanks for taking a little bit of time out of the day and sitting and sharing. Hopefully, not just in general element of discussion, but getting more people to consider. respectfully, even challenging sometimes the status quo or championing a particular thing, but willing to engage in dialogue that is respectful, that is responsible, that is constructive, that is civil. But it doesn't mean that if you disagree, that you just can't say, okay, well, we disagree on this thing, but let's go now and shoot a game of pool, play a game of dominoes, and then grab a bite to eat. Get a little fish tea.
I mean, for any society to all agree with the same thing, I don't know how productive they'll ever be. But again, I just Sterling, is it too much to ask for that we want to have an environment where Caymanians are able to one, contribute and participate in any of the economic success that's going on, and live a fairly sustainable, decent life? There's nothing wrong with those things. And when a person find themselves speaking publicly about issues that they find that is creating issues for them, either personally or other people that they know, then we obviously have an issue and we need to address it. Okay. Yeah, we have some people who complain just about everything, and it's just like, not because we have 5 kids and one of them is a bad one, you got one bad seed that when you start to serve dinner you're going to leave him out. You understand?
But even that one bad seed, as it was, it's not like you baking a cake and you got a dozen eggs but one is off. That one child that is problematic, little troublesome, whatever the thing is, right? Yeah. You can nurture that child, but if you write the child off, then
obviously if you're not doing anything to fuel his confidence and help him motivate himself, but if all you're doing is fueling his anger and the things that gets him in trouble, so what you've done, you've basically ostracized that child, and that child will find another platform. Yeah. In order to express himself. Again, so I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD in anything. But at the end of the day, we all have our own personal life experiences and things that we've seen growing up. And nobody can't discredit that.
All right. Let's deliberately look at some of the politics for an argument's sake. Right? We've heard for a number of years former politicians and current politicians, from those who sit on one side of the table to those who sit in cabinet, and many things that they agree on, but increasingly, you're hearing it almost verbatim. We need a ministry of small things, the little things. Yeah. So you hear the government and the other, whether they're opposition, whether they're independent, saying these little things. I said that to share that the gentleman this morning, he said, it's the small things that matter. The scripture talks about if I can't entrust you and you don't do well with the small things, how do I give you the big things to deal with, right? But it's a small thing that if you don't take stock, do something to address it. If it's a little thing on your arm and you don't go to the doctor and it festers and then it becomes this thing, you could lose your arm or your life. Yeah. Right? It's the small things, that little pothole in the road, rain come and it starts to get bigger and bigger. Small things. Is that a problem in our society? We're not looking at.
It is, because the smallest things create the biggest impacts. And sometimes the biggest things create the most smallest of impacts. When you look at big organizations that are doing these big projects, not too many Caymanians benefiting from that other than that small circle of people. Okay. And when you see the smaller projects take off, then you see those people are more in line with the smaller people, and then and a lot of other people get work on those projects. But because we have adapted and implemented the trickle-down effect for a very long time, and when it wasn't a lot of Caymanians who were out there seeking, employment and these different things, that may have not necessarily worked, but might have been enough to suffice. But now that you have this melting pot of over 100 different nationalities within our workforce and within our social fabric, and when we look at our PR system and we look at our status system and we look at all of these things that are in place that's supposed to vet persons coming here, you see that it's almost an open door policy.
But let me ask then, with respect to immigration and citizenship and the like, a couple of things that seem to be troublesome, and with the greatest respect, it probably becomes more apparent and certainly probably takes more precedence when we hear it from others than when we hear it from our own. So two points. And they both lead to the same sort of destination, in that if it's said, we say, oh, they're being, and we use fancy words, xenophobic, or we become very, very deliberate and say, oh, they're racist, prejudiced, whichever, right? So I'll give you an example. I can't call him a foreign national because to me he isn't, right? But I use it as he said. When he first came here, he was a foreign national. Him and his spouse were from the same country, and as a result, one gets status and one gets PR, whichever. The other has he didn't realize at the time a little bit easier time accessing the immigration system and the like. Well, things transpired over the years. They separated. He eventually remarries someone who is Caymanian, right? And the notion is that two foreign nationals, because of the immigration system, can navigate the system easier than a foreign national and a Caymanian can, to get the same sort of.
Well, you're absolutely right, and again, it's not. And I'll speak very briefly on the immigration issues,
right? Because
there's a lot of reform that need to go on in that department.
Okay.
You remember years ago, not so long ago, where if a Caymanian man had a child for someone outside the Cayman, that child didn't automatically get Cayman papers. Obviously, you had to do your DNA and all these different things, but it was a whole 9 yards of information in order to attain the rights for that child to be a Caymanian.
That you've acknowledged is yours.
Right. And not only that, but then when a woman, when a Caymanian woman have a child for a foreign national, automatically gets a passport because it's a Caymanian woman and there's no doubt in whatever the case have you, right? Even if both cases were where the child was born in the jurisdiction of Cayman, the male always experienced a lot more issues. Because of course we had marriage for conveniences and all these different things as an element within our society, and those things were very real. But at the end of the day, and this is where I draw the comparison. If a person can come here and spend 10 years and become a Caymanian by Cayman status, right? Or if a person come here for a short couple of months and apply for PR with the rights to work, then how is it that a Caymanian father who had a child by a foreign national can't get his child through the door as a Caymanian? So, again, we can draw that comparison and we can say that something grossly wrong with that scenario. But I'm glad that eventually we've moved past that. We've reformed our laws, and that's no longer the case. But it reminds me when I used to work with immigration, and I'll say this publicly because I thought it was an absolute disgrace, in my personal opinion, as an individual who worked for immigration department. When the Air Jamaica flight used to come here, that's when Air Jamaica used to fly, and when Cayman Airways used to fly to and from Jamaica, which they still do. And that flight would come in, and I would work all day, and I would clear flights from the U.S., 10 or 15 of them a day. And they come in, we roll 30 days, and they book, and they gone. The Jamaica flight land, or the Honduran flight land, Islania, I think it was called back then, they come in now. And I understand that these are problem jurisdictions, okay? But how many world wars did Jamaica or Honduras start? How many? None. How many America started? They're on their third one now. So all I'm saying to you is this, is that when we have demonstrated that level of discrimination, especially to our neighbors such as Jamaica, who we used to spend their money and ruled under their governor, when we can demonstrate and display that level of discrimination, right? That used to bother me. I had a major issue with that. Okay? Now, I'm not telling you that some of the people that came here didn't have issues and wasn't trying to do things bad. But because we've given the United States of America a pretty much free pass, if we had vetted those people the way we vetted Jamaican people and the Honduran people, I guarantee you we would have found a lot of unscrupulous people coming from the north of the border. But I only say all of that to say this, that when I had to get off of my bench to go outside to holler for somebody's sponsor physically, and if that sponsor didn't answer, I had the opportunity to go back inside and refuse that person entry into this country. Never once have I ever saw or experienced or done personally did that for a flight coming out of the United States of America. So all I'm saying is this, is that whenever we demonstrate some level of fairness as an individual based on laws that we have available to us, then you're being criticized of not doing the right thing. So I'm just glad that at this particular point, it's 2020. Thank goodness that we're not getting off our bench discriminating against certain individuals. And you know why we don't do that anymore? Because there's a visa system in place. That's done prior to. So we no longer have to do that, because once you got a visa, you've automatically passed some line of interrogation in order to attain that visa. Now, every system has loopholes, but at the end of the day, so that's where we are as a people. So have we progressed over the last 100 years? I'm not sure.
Right. So, but as a listener, the level playing field that we want for businesses, that we want for people, from what I'm hearing you share, is that once we have that, it's fair for everybody across the board,
right?
No matter,
Sterling, for me, it's very simple for me. We must live in a live and let live society. And the definition of live and let live is that whatever policies and regulations that we have in place should, at the very first instant, ensure the continuity and sustainability of its people first, and then everything else after. But the system that we currently have in place is vice versa. Because I've heard people who have recently become status holders say to me, "Oh man, if they knew that it would have been this hard being a status holder, they would have preferred to just stay on a permit."
Strange, you've heard that too.
And that is not something that I made up.
No.
That is the harsh, cold reality of this system that we have in place.
Yeah.
Now, I would just say this, that I think the Cayman Islands has done a fantastic job on playing host. Now, when we use the word fantastic and job in the same context, it's easy to misunderstand or misconceive what I mean by that. So all we want is a fantastic job done also for our local Caymanian people.
Yeah, man. All right. After the break, we play the host. Maybe there's some, we'll see the ghost as well. 949-837, 1-800-534-8255. Come, after the break, share with us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
CUC advises participants in the Green Iguana culling program to exercise extreme caution around the CUC's poles and power lines, especially when extracting iguanas from trees or branches that are in close proximity to poles and power lines. Participants should keep all objects such as poles, sticks, or hooks away from any CUC equipment to avoid any electrical contact. For further information, please contact our customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky.
ValueMed Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
Pure Art Gallery and Gifts on South Church Street would like to inform the public that they will be closed temporarily for renovations from January 15th to the 24th. They do apologize for any inconvenience while they work to improve your customer experience. On behalf of the team at Pure Art, they thank you for your patronage and they look forward to seeing you at their reopening come January 25th.
This is the NDC. We're calling on all volunteers to assist us in the administration of the Cayman Islands Student Drug Use Survey.
The survey tracks and monitors over time high-risk behaviors, trends, mental health, and bullying, among other things. This allows us to develop and implement evidence-based prevention programs in our schools and communities.
To volunteer, please call 949-9000 or email iMcLean@ndc.ky by January 24th.
Volunteers must be 18 years or older, can give approximately 1 hour of their time, and willing to attend a brief 30-minute training.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. In the studio, Mr. Mario Rankin sits with us, and not to embarrass her, but to show her public, appreciation. Susan, you see how, if you didn't call her name, you probably wouldn't even know she's there.
Mm-hmm.
Very much, instrumental in. It's not just the quality of the sound and how the video looks on the YouTube and all that, but just making it happen.
Yeah.
Wonderful presence, man. She must be the Cayman Rackers, good people, But I wanted to ask Mario, as we were chatting, this notion that, as you say, it's 2020. We're seeing the move of people across the globe as they're starting to share, well, wait a minute now. We don't like what is happening in the private sector. We don't like what's happening in the public sector. We think environmentally this could be they're starting to, maybe mobilize. Before we get into that, let's go to the phones. Pick up this caller, and I don't know, maybe some fish tea. Let's go. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have any fish tea.
All right, well, at least you were willing to share if you did, and I tell you what, once you don't feel offended, I don't think anybody makes fish tea as good as my brothers. So,
Yeah, no, I've heard that, and I didn't hear it from you either. Good afternoon, Mr. Mario.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, I just turned on my radio, and I think that was a shame because I usually have my radio on, and I don't know why. I went out for a bit, so I cut it off.
Oh, I was going to say maybe the power went off, No, I'm not going to do that. Sorry.
What's the subject, Mr. Mario?
We was no subject in particular. We were just talking about, the unification amongst Caymanians. Whenever they speak out publicly and about certain issues, the biggest critics that we have is our own, who try to tear you down and discredit everything you do. And we were just basically talking along those lines. But
you're so right. You are so right, because I've been told to stay off the phone by my own Caymanians and trying to disguise their voice. Okay.
Wow.
And I feel like this. If I can't speak out in my own country, now, can I go in the United States and tell them that what to do or how I feel and all that kind of stuff? Oh, no. Or any other country. In any other country. But like you said, a lot of us don't speak out soon enough, because all kinds of things is happening that should not be happening, that it's illegal, and laws are not enforced. That's the thing, Mr. Mario. We got the laws, as you know, coming out of our ears.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, the environment, everything is going to hell in a handbasket, is the older people say, which I'm one of the older ones now too, and thank God he let me see this age. But it is getting really ridiculous. I've spoke out about something a few weeks ago, and I be doggone if my own representative didn't call in And by not calling no name, and I didn't call any name, but I knew exactly that he was speaking about me because I had not so long called. But that's okay. I don't have to agree with him, and not everything that he do or anybody else. If I see it is wrong, that's my opinion. It's my opinion. But we need to speak about things that we see that is wrong, things that people is doing is wrong. I heard a lady just the other day, I know her quite well, speaking about 2 more bars in West Bay is opening up again. And yet our children are going to destruction. And we're opening more bars because, okay, that brings more money. Let me get rich this month. I can't wait for years and years. I want to get rich now. But on whose backbone we're getting rich? On our children and other people that has become alcoholics in this West Bay area. I guess it's all over the world, not all over Cayman. I'm not trying to put down anybody if they want to make a living, but more bars, we don't need more bars. Sometimes I get so aggravated, yet we're not looking after our own Caymanians with jobs, people that don't have jobs, trying so hard to get jobs in our own Caymanians is looking them in the face and saying no, no, no. But they bring in the expat and for little or nothing, living in bad conditions. I wonder if our representatives, or some of them, because I can depend on definitely Ezard. I can depend on him. And Kenneth Bryan as well, he's started to speak out about different subjects and things that make sense and that is happening. But I'm wondering, why isn't the government checking on all these people that is renting such to these people with such poor condition, hardly any sanitary facilities and stuff, and checking on some of these restaurants that need to be checked on with their bathrooms and stuff like that. And yet we talk about tourism more and more and more and more and more, and our island is going to destruction. But I got some little thing off my chest, and I thank you both for listening. And I can shut up my mouth now before I be told to shut up my mouth. And you all have a great day and good afternoon to my friend Susan.
Thank you very much for sharing, Mom. I hope nobody caused you to feel discouraged and sad. And for what it's worth, our apologies that people are still so disrespectful and offensive. But thank you for the courage. Enjoy your afternoon, Mom. Now, are we going to hit the news, Miss Susan? And then after the news, Mr. Rankin, we continue talking? But what do you think? I mean, are we, or as Caymanians, are we truly our worst enemies?
Well, let's think about this for a second. For the lady that just called, for someone to call her to suggest she should stop on the radio. Now tell me, what harm or hurt or threat does she pose to anybody?
For voicing what she...
For voicing what she feel is her opinion. So, again, it goes back to what we started off saying. Where we need to do a better job as Caymanians, supporting Caymanians, regardless of whatever your personal opinion is of that person. If the person is speaking something of sense and that benefits everybody, then how could you criticize that if it's not simply your emotions that are talking? So,
but as I listen to it, I think immediately to an acquaintance I've recently had a good fortune of making. Credible lady. Honestly, And for me, it seems that anytime anybody is willing to stand in the gap, to speak out, to challenge something, to look for good and to champion good over evil, to fight injustices, whether they're in here, in this small jurisdiction, or they're elsewhere. You see how the ghost in the system?
Yeah.
Maybe I should take that as a warning and be careful that I don't speak to them more. All right, you know what?
Take our break.
Yeah, let's take our break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on planet.
Generations present. Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The National Roads Authority wishes to advise the public that expansion of the Chrissy Tomlinson roundabout to 3 lanes began earlier this week. The aim of the roadwork, which is expected to last 6 weeks, is to assist westbound traffic from the Rex Crichton Boulevard and Shamrock Road to merge smoothly onto Hurley-Merrin Boulevard. This is similar to improvements at the Red Bay roundabout. The NRA will undertake the roadworks at low peak times in an effort to minimize disruptions to motorists. However, motorists may encounter some delays and you're encouraged to proceed with caution. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. The White House broke the law by withholding aid to Ukraine that had been approved by the U.S. Congress, a government watchdog has said. The Government Accountability Office ruling is a potential blow to U.S. President Donald Trump as he faces an impeachment trial in the Senate. He is accused of freezing aid to pressure Ukraine to investigate a political rival. And Elizabeth Warren accused rival Bernie Sanders of calling her a liar at the end of a Democratic candidate's TV debate. That's according to a newly released recording. On Tuesday, she refused to shake his hand during a tense post-debate talk. The audio of their heated exchange has since emerged, revealing what the candidates said to each other. The progressive candidates for the presidential nomination had previously refused to attack each other. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for the excellent company of Mr. Mario Rankin for sharing. Now, as we were discussing, and the phone lines are open for those who want to be a part of our discussion, 949-8037, or a toll-free call with the kind compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. What is it then? Because we've been asking this question for a long time. We probably stopped asking, maybe because we figured there's no sense in asking. Maybe we found the answer, I'm not sure. For whom are we developing? But we also now have been asking recently, why is it that our people are willing to take whatever is scraps that fall, just take it, don't say anything, and are so unwilling or afraid to ask a question, to make a comment? Is it because of the 1 or 2 or the 10 or increasingly the 20 or 200 or the 5,000 who are now asking and standing up? We're seeing them getting, maybe a few licks in the process. I mean, what is it? Why aren't we more willing to stand up, speak out?
Well, because victimization is a real element of our society, and that's no joke. Now, we don't expect everybody to be champions of our society. We don't expect everybody to disregard the consequences of their actions when it comes to speaking publicly and politically, because not everybody built that way. So I'm not in any way or any form criticizing anyone for not doing so, because they have their valid reasons not to, right? But then don't be the people who criticize those who do. That willing to take whatever consequences there is for speaking publicly about any political or private issues. So if you're not willing to be a part of the solution, then be quiet.
So lead, follow, or get out of the way?
Yeah, just be quiet. Because if you're not going to, like they taught you when you were young, if you're not going to say something good about somebody, don't say nothing at all. Right? So for me is that, for all of those who criticize and all of those who have an issue with what you say, I read something a couple of days ago. I wrote an article and I shared it with CNS, not with the intentions for it to become a viewpoint, just simply sharing it with the author of CNS because she has an open mind on certain issues. Anyway, I shared it with a bunch of people. So they and then some of the comments on it, right, which I'm used to by now. I'm not, believe me when I tell you, I don't lose any sleep over that. But when I saw how those individuals who anonymously attack other people, it's really, really an eye opener. When they start saying, oh, well, Mario did this and Mario did that, and all the things in which they don't have any information on, just based on what they believe. And that was only to try to discredit me as a person so that people don't put much thought into what it is that I wrote. But everything that I wrote is facts. These are things that transpired within our society that has created a large hindrance for Caymanians to survive and be a part of the status quo. So in respect that you may not like Mario, but how is it that how could you disagree with something that is actual fact? Because but just to finish my chain of thought.
Yes.
Because everybody has an opinion, but we all share the same facts. The facts are the facts. We can't change those. We can have a different opinion about the facts, but you can't change the facts. We all share the same facts. Opinions differ.
Yeah. But as I listen to you, I mean, think of the way things are played now. You always used to hear, but don't shoot the messenger, all right? We don't want to hear the message because of, who the messenger is, but credibility. Remember you talked about, character assassination, right? Isn't it now the order of the day?
I'll tell you, I'll go right to your point. I'll go a step further.
Yeah.
I saw where two individuals in our society, I'm not calling the names because I have those persons in great respect, as I do every other Caymanian, and those who come here and call Cayman home and become Cayman. I saw where a gentleman wrote an article in the newspaper, and because of his status and because of who he is, every person in the grandmother, oh, what a wonderful job, it's an awesome letter, and it's all. And when you read the letter, it's exactly what I've been saying and writing about for the last 3 years. Now, granted, I'm glad at least somebody's showing some appreciation for the utterances. But you see, I only say that to draw the difference in who's saying it.
Yeah. Well, this is it.
Right? And that's where I think we need to do better as Caymanians, is that regardless of our emotional detachment we have with someone, we must give credit where credit is due to those individuals who are making positive contributions within our society, regardless if it's getting on the radio or doing things in the community. People ask me all the time, they try to break you down by saying, well, what have you done for Cayman? Well, people who do things and seeking recognition for it, they ain't worth anything in Mario books. You understand? Because if you know the associations and community groups that I've been a part of from in the early 90s straight back until now, I don't mention those things because I don't look at any credit for those things. I don't want any credit for those things because the communities and the persons and the environment that benefited from those things was why we were doing it. Right. So again, we have this situation. We want to build a cruise berthing facility in our Georgetown Harbor. Caymanians come up and say we don't want to build it, but yet we have a strong fight against the people we elect to protect our interests. So if 7,000 people who are registered voters in this country express their concern about something that our elected arm is doing, then how could conceivably the government feel like it's in the best interests to fight those same people who you are elected to protect their interests, to do something that you think is better for the people when the people clearly giving you a mandate now.
Right.
So again, Is there some things that need to be fixed? Absolutely. Are we in a position where we can now finally have a leg in the race? Oh, yes, we do. So
let me ask then, right? And we're speaking to Mario Rankin, but respectfully, discussion here for everybody else to engage. Wow, we know that the government has said there were some discussions, negotiations, whatever, with the UK government relative to making some changes to our constitution.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speak to those changes because I don't have them in front of me, so I'm not going to try to, repeat them as if I remember them verbatim. Right?
Well, I can give them one suggestion right now, and this is off topic of everything.
Yeah.
No company in the world should be allowed to come into the Cayman Islands and set up an LCCL without a public advertisement that states we are seeking local investors to come in partnership with this project or company. Therefore, that is the proper procedure, and that there should be no exemptions or ruling by cabinet to waive that ability. We went from having 4 LCCLs back in the 80s and 90s to now having a couple hundred. And for those people who don't know what an LCCL is, it is for a company to set up and operate within the confines of the Cayman Islands without any Caymanian participation. That's what an LCCL is. So I think that's one amendment that we need to make immediately.
Something you shared, I've heard other people, and this may even go in well with the whole issue of what I was just going to ask, more on a political front, right? But some people who are much more knowledgeable about that, some who file on behalf of even applicants for LCCLs, saying that you'll have an application for an LCCL for millions, tens of millions, but you may have some for a few thousand, as it were. And why? Why?
Well, when you have a system, or when you have a policy that is strategically designed to ensure that there's no real public interest from the Caymanian people. Because even if we change that law right now, we have to go a step further than just changing the law, We need to ensure now that the process of how you assess who comes and participate in this venture, because you can't leave a clause in there and say, well, if we desire that we don't want that person to be a part of it. No. You can't have that. If a person can meet the government requirements in terms of showing the ability to participate at the level that they expect and all of these other things, then that person should have every right. If a person then, let me give it on layman terms. If a company have the absolute right to come to our country and invest in our country to reap maximum benefits for them, then why isn't there an equal law that states that a Caymanian have every right and an absolute right to invest in anything that's coming in this country to benefit them?
Yeah. Well, but this is why I was going to say political, right? So we have an opportunity to comment on some of these proposed changes, right?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, when you look at Verdun Isle Group, where is the tender for Caymanians to participate in that consortium? Where it is? I can assure you that Cabinet granted an exemption of them having to do that. Now, under the current law, the government have the right to do so. And I'm not saying that the government done anything wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just simply saying is that when we look at the grand scheme of this, right? If we're speaking hypothetically and frankly, if we were to get behind, or let's just say we had agreed to build a cruise berthing facility, then why in the world wasn't it put out to tender so Caymanians would have an opportunity to invest in that project? Why would we grant some exemption from them for their LCCL? See, this is the level of things that we need to be talking about.
Yeah. And I think as I listen to you, I reflect on a number of conversations, including the one earlier this morning, where people are starting to ask, well, if we have confidence in our country, political and economic confidence, and if there are opportunities to take some of our savings and buy into the country to own part of its infrastructure, it's great.
We got $2.5 billion in pension vehicles.
Right.
Why we can't? Sterling.
Go ahead, man. Listen to you, man.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you and your listening, beautiful public, this. If the government is saying that this cruise berthing facility is the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? And better than the cat, and better than the golden calf that they built in the desert of Jerusalem when Moses went to get the 10 Commandments, then why isn't it good enough for our pension fund to build it and own it, control it, and reap the benefits. Why we got to give it to a foreign entity to control for 25 years?
Or 50?
Or 50, or 100, or forever.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, tell me now if I'm imagining something that is sinister outside of the reality of the current situation. Over $2 billion in investment vehicles in our pension funds, $250 million to build a pair. Okay? So you telling me now is that we can't collectively extract money from each one of those pension vehicles and say, okay, we're going to build this pair. And we're going to own this pair. And the people of this country are going to reap the benefits of this pair. And our pension holders are going to reap the benefits of this pair.
All right. I hear you. And
anyway,
there are those who
and that's just one case, because
fair enough.
The pension people could have funded the airport. The pension people could have the pension fund could have funded a lot of projects that they could be benefits from.
We could own the government.
They could have bought CUC.
Yeah, own the government debt, perhaps buy out the. I hear you, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm asking is that I think increasingly when we look within the resources, the financial resources, the business acumen, the expertise that we have onshore within our people, within the businesses, the lawyers, the accountants, and all those here, we're probably not leveraging that according to some of the things I'm being told. And let's reflect quickly on the discussion this morning. So the gentleman is saying, listen, how many of us are actually aware that we have until, I think it's the 20th of February, to make comments? Are we paying attention to what those proposed changes are?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, he said, for instance, is this not an opportune time to look at the whole Constitution to say, well, what more do we want?
We need a complete constitutional reform, even though it was only done 10 short years ago.
Right.
But I agree.
All right. Miss Susan, yeah.
All right.
I go to 1:30. Maya, she must like you, man.
No, I know she didn't say that.
No, she didn't say. Thank you, Miss Susan. No, listen, Miss Norma, we're talking. Let's have some.
Yeah.
All right. I want to share what he was saying as a suggestion, right? A couple of things with his permission. But was that something you wanted? I don't want to put you and make it fun.
Well, no.
Go ahead.
No, I think that's a great idea, and I have a host of constitutional amendments and changes that I think should put in place.
All right. Well, let me throw some on the table.
Yeah.
But you want to start? Go ahead.
No, I just want to round off that last thing about pensions.
Yes.
One of the reasons why there's no real hurry into using the pension fund in order to invest in certain capital projects and buy certain utilities that could properly benefit our pension providers to our pension holders is, you know why? Let me tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute you install that mechanism to say, okay, we're gonna use some of the pension fund and create investment vehicles that buys the largest share of our utilities and ownership of those things, is because it comes out of the control of the said politicians who have for decades manipulated certain deals and how they go and how they don't go. Because the minute it goes into a structured environment, which have accountabilities written into those structures, then they can no longer benefit from it. And that's one of the hugest issues that we have, and one of the biggest resistance, because they don't want to take it out of the control of their hands and put it into a proper structured environment. Because remember, when they were looking at divesting government assets, and they were looking at, their government building, which was in tune of $100 million, and a private entity was going to purchase the building, right? And then lease it back to government, lease it to own to government for less than what they were currently paying for the loan that they had, which made sense. But again, because the calves and the corral wasn't the calves that was hand selected by the political arm, then nobody wanted to do the deal. So again, we go back to that. But to that gentleman's conversation you had, is that there are a lot of constitutional changes that need to be made. Like, for one, we need a provision in the Constitution that states in very clear language that in the absence of enforcement of every constitutional order and proper laws to be in place that represent every constitutional order, that any sitting government that refuses to identify and enforce and apply these constitutional requirements shall become immediately subjected to disqualification under this constitutional revision. So what that basically does is that when there is a constitutional requirement that ensures certain continuity of Caymanian, it has to be enforced.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we have a bunch of laws that we don't enforce, that's no shame on nobody other than ourselves, We can't blame anybody for that, We only can blame ourselves. When you look at the district council that is part of the council, we have no district council. I know Mr. Ezra Miller and them was doing something in his district, and I think he has something that's active, which is the only thing that is resemblance to what the Constitution requires. But again, where is the proverbial enforcement department that say, hey, you've been elected now 2 terms and you haven't instituted one district council? Standards in public life. None of this stuff has been applied. We got it in the books, but nobody's doing anything about it. I hear Mr. Macfield talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And he's right. But again, it's the messenger that we're looking at, that we're listening to, not the message.
Well, I hope that I don't, like the gentleman said to me, so you can share some of these things, but he's not responsible for the licks I take.
Yeah, well.
He put it differently.
Well, it's one of those things, Sterling, where I think that in most cases, if some of the things were enforced entirely, we would see a better environment. But they're just not.
Right. Well, this is it, and he says, and he said some of this a number of times over the years. I can't say that I noticed definitively, but I think it is. He's of the same view. Our Constitution has a provision every 5 years is supposed to be reviewed or something, and this has been 10 years now. And if we're going to seemingly, because the entire Legislative Assembly has unanimously agreed to these things, well, why don't we take it a step further and do it in his view? Even better, make it more, encompassing. Maybe put more authority in it for those that we elect. A name change here and calling it a parliament. Well, it's probably good in his perspective in that internationally it may carry a certain connotation, but if it has no real weight initially, what's the point? No, he did say, and as a sort of a self-styled sort of constitutional expert, he understands the UK's unwritten constitution operated by convention.
Right.
And over a period of time, if you do something and it becomes accepted norm, then this becomes the thing that you do. All right. But he said, for instance, if we look at our population and we got 20-something thousand registered voters, it doesn't matter if our population is 50,000, 100,000, or 150,000. If this is your voter base and you have 19 people and possibly, he was speculating, you're probably going to see 2 more in not too long, right? Do we need that many elected people at that level and at that expense?
Well, here and to that point, I think that in spite that we have just changed this one man one vote, I didn't necessarily agree with that, because I think Cayman is too small of a country to be divided in 19 different pieces, and I do not agree with our premier only getting 478 votes. That's how he got elected. Now, granted, collectively amongst the bargaining and the bartering that went on within the walls of the elected to create the government, that's fine. What I'm saying is that Cayman is too small for 19 different people representing 19 different areas.
Little pockets, huh?
It's not productive for us. Okay, and it's not something that we need a general election. The people of the Cayman Islands should elect our premier.
So national across the board?
It should be a national election.
All right. I'm going to say something, and it's going to
21,000 people. Yeah. We can do this.
Sound like what you just said, and just for the people listening, because I know and you know, Mario wasn't at the discussion this morning. To the best of my knowledge, he's never been in the presence of this gentleman when I was there having this discussion. Right? I didn't tell him who it was. I want to say that so that hopefully people don't, put you and me in the same basket and give you licks too. Yeah. Right? But the gentleman said, listen, if you divide the country up continually like what we're doing, we're not just being divisive and polarizing, but we could create a significant affront to our historical, our heritage, our cultural thing. The notion that you want to combine North Side and East End, I mean, that's as egregious, as insulting, he said, as anything, right? And then he shares this year, we're talking about a constitution and the first, election and the importance of it. And yet when we go back to the restroom and the like, we see how many people we had, even from those districts, right? With a smaller population.
Yeah, if we're gonna move to unity, if we're gonna move to Caymanians coming together to work as one, How are we going to do that when we've clearly identified 19 different electoral districts?
Yeah.
How are we going to do that? Yeah. Because if a politician is in there and he's the minister for roads, okay, every district in Cayman got roads.
Yep.
Okay, but his constituency is for Bordentown or Bordentown East or Bordentown West or wherever, right? The people he gonna listen to first is those who elect him,
because he's accountable to them.
Because he's already obligated, and you can't really blame that person.
Nope.
So I'm saying is that we create these issues and then we talk about what the problem these issues causes. Listen, we need to get to a general election, okay, and we need to have representatives that represents everybody in Cayman. Not just one pocket of people who they depend on to be reelected. Listen, the political sovereignty of this country should rest on the shoulders of the 21,000 registered voters, and not 450 people.
All right. Well, so, but you said general election. He said national election. Is that the same?
Well, it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's national general election is the same.
Okay,
thing. Same definition.
All right. So what he was saying is, if you take the normal electoral districts that we had and the ones that we know, right?
Right.
So we got the 6th, the West Bay, the Georgetown, the Bordentown, the North Side, East End, the Kimmerbrag.
Right.
And then I think I recall what he said, because he said it to me a number of times. I made an attempt to try to say it on the air. And he said, okay, if we go back to the historical record, we know that Prospect and Red Bay, there was one there. And then Savannah-ish was another one there, right?
Savannah, Newlands, and area, yeah.
So if we look at the size of the growing population, so we take those traditional 6, add those 2, we get 8. And we elect one person, whatever you want to call them, senators, whatever you want to call them. We elect one. Each district elects one. And then we create, on a national basis, the premier and 2 others, right? So that they become your governing sort of political directorate.
Right.
Now, there's another call online, and I want to come back to that point. But remind me, because then he says you create now a larger General Assembly of people, similar to the restaurant and before, right? So, but let me take this call, and then we'll come back to that. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome you on Talk Today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dwayne, and good afternoon, Mario.
Welcome.
Good afternoon,
How are you today,
Happy New Year.
Everything good. Happy New Year to you guys, too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw something in there, because I've been talking about this for some years, but nobody seems to listen. Because
is that because you're West Bay?
Yeah, West Bay and Caymanian.
All right.
But talking about the finances in this island. One of the things that bothers me is that I'll give you a good example. Good examples now. You remember when we started off talking about this Ironwood project that was going to do this and do that and do the other thing? Did they get $25 million and do the concession?
I'm not 100% sure.
I believe there was
something in
there was some talks.
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
Either 25 or 20 million. Okay. They're talking about they were going to do all this stuff. We went to Chicago to get the drawings for the high schools, the 3 high schools built. I mean, that they were supposed to build. And they never started the one in West Bay, which is where I'm from. John Gray had been left there for, 7, 8 years, doing nothing. It's rotting. Now they got to go back and put another $40 million to fix it up. And when they built Clifton Hunter, this is the worst of the worst. They were $60 million over the budget. That's at times plus another $10 million. But nobody's accountable. I asked the question, where did the money go? And today, people that work there tell me the condition of this place up there, and nobody is accountable. You see, if we had laws that when people who are in charge, like some years ago in the United States, there was a guy named Ross Sankowski that was in charge of the Ways and Means Committee, I think it was. And he was supposed to be doing all this stuff up in Chicago with a bunch of money that they were getting from the United States Congress. And they found out that he had been doing that. He was doing something else with it. He went to court and got sentenced, I think it was 10 years in jail.
But
we need laws that protect the people of this island.
I have one question. You talking about is it logwood development?
Ironwood.
Ironwood development.
Ironwood.
Right. You were saying that they were supposed to get X amount of dollars in concessions, but wouldn't they only realize the concession had they started the project?
No.
Yeah, but the government wouldn't have given them $25 million cash and say, this is an incentive to start. The concession mean that they might have got waivers and duties and certain materials that were coming in. But you would have to, the only way to realize that concession is if you actually started the project.
I mean, this is what I'm saying. When they gave them that concession, they hadn't put one thing in the ground yet. They obviously didn't have no drawings. They put a bunch of, and the people that did.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. I know what I'm talking about. They had things in the newspaper showing what this place was going to look like. The design, they had houses in the middle of the golf course and all that kind of thing.
Right.
It was not the kind of thing they did. Let me tell you something, Mario and Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
We have to have accountability in this island because we waste so much money. How can it be that John Gray High School had sat there for that long and nobody did anything about it? Now when it's rotting this head, you've got to go back and throw another $40 million according to the newspaper. You got to finish it up. Who's responsible?
Wow.
Who's accountable?
Alden McLaughlin, he was the minister of education when they started it, and he'd been the premier twice.
Yeah, but you got a minister for education that's supposed to be looking after that.
Again, he started it.
Yeah, but I'm saying I know that, and I talked to Alden about it years ago when we had the first meeting down in John Cumber Hall. But I'm saying that I thought it was too much then, and I tell you what, we got to do something and forget about. Oh, God help us. We got to start managing our money. And everybody that gets in there, we got the counselors, we got this, we got that. And them guys, when I think that poor people are making $6.50 an hour, okay? And that's not even CI, that can be US, I guess. And what I'm saying is, nobody's thinking about that, and we got not enough housing for poor people. And God forbid you see a recession in the United States. If you think that Ireland was bad, you make them get a recession in the United States and see what's going to happen here. Because we got 35,000 work permit people. These people, and I told government some time ago, whenever these employees bring in these people, they have to have a deposit in an escrow account so that when they have to leave, government will have to come begging, and then you could tell them, well, we don't have the money to do it.
But there is a repatriation fee.
That's right. These are things that we got to do because, God forbid, like I said, if you see a recession in this island, oh my God, I didn't even want to think about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, well, thanks for sharing. And with that, we take a break. Mr. Rankin, we'll come back, we'll pick up the calls.
Yeah.
Ask you for your comments again. Oh boy, I don't know if you got friends out there today. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
In preparation for the Heroes' Day celebrations, the Cayman Islands government is seeking interested food vendors and special event services providers. Businesses wishing to be considered for selection may collect their application package from the Government Administration Building reception or email requests to nationalevents@gov.ky. All applications for food vendors and special event services providers must be submitted no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, January 17th.
This is the NDC. We're calling on all volunteers to assist us in the administration of the Cayman Islands Student Drug Use Survey.
The survey tracks and monitors over time high-risk behaviors, trends, mental health, and bullying, among other things. This allows us to develop and implement evidence-based prevention programs in our schools and communities.
To volunteer, please call 949-9000 or email iMcLean@ndc.ky by January 24th.
Volunteers must be 18 years or older, can give approximately 1 hour of their time, and willing to attend a brief 30-minute training.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks again to Mr. Mario Rankin for keeping my company. If not, then I'll be here by myself, right? And you know, Miss Susan, she's like, I gotta see him again. So should be a one mirror. All right, let's go to the phones though. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, General. How are you today?
Afternoon.
I'm fine. Mr. Mario,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon to the whole panel and Miss Susan. For what it's worth, I have a few things to say, and I don't intend to get up on any long preamble.
Mm-hmm.
I am so disappointed and shocked. What I understand, I will be reading it myself, but this is confidential information, reliable information. In my district of West Bay that I live, I'm not going to change it for any other part of the island except where I'm living right now, and that's it. They have issued something between 8 and 10 liquor license for that district. I am so shocked and disappointed that these people that I have literally no respect for, that is the license board, they need to know it up front. I need to ask them what in the hell they think they're doing. I mean, in the District of West Bay, that this should happen, when we had the West Bay Action Committee going, that was a threat to some politicians as well. So they decided that they would throw a monkey wrench and try to sabotage it. But we're on the road to getting it back in action. What I'm saying is this, right? How can they just do as they see fit? Each district should have their own liquor license board. How someone is going to come from Central and say, well, yeah, he can have a license. Do you live in our district and know what we're going through or what we should have and what we shouldn't have? No. That is not right. And I intend, like a lot of other people, intend to see about this thing. Never mind, they think that they're getting money about young entrepreneurs and what have you. When someone has to go into the hospital and use dialysis machine, they have to go overseas for liver transplant and all sorts. What is that costing the government, gentlemen? And then we see them running about feeding their face 24/7 with beer and all sorts of liquors. And we complain about the younger people, oh, they don't have no ambition. Why? Because the super rich people are poisoning them, in my opinion, with alcohol, which is another drug, which should not be allowed. And they run up and down in their big Mercedes-Benz and living high in the hog, while they're taking these people and pulling them over the fire. And they have no respect for a lot of those young people that has become, in my opinion, certified alcoholics. They couldn't care less once they get the money. It is time that our representatives all over the island have a little respect for our district and for themselves as well, and other people, that they think that they can just push all of this garbage down in our district because of its West Bay. No, that is not fair. It is not fair. And some people that I understand that has a liquor license. I never thought in my normal thinking that they would apply for such a thing as a liquor license. You know, where are we going with this little island? What is it coming to? You know, it is so disgraceful, so disheartening, right? That's what's happening here. Gentlemen, that is my little piece for today, and I certainly thank you for listening to me, but I will be coming back on shortly, another day, and we're going to pursue this thing, and something has to give, because those that think that they can just dish out liquor license because they're on the board, well, I'm sorry. It's time to be called accountable. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you again.
All right, thank you very much for sharing that, sir. Mario, from that perspective, okay, the gentleman isn't the first to call publicly to just to voice as best peers what they see happening and the allegations that every street corner there's a liquor license. But it goes back to the discussion I had earlier when it comes to the reviewing the Constitution and maybe the composition of the Legislative Assembly, how we elect the people and how we're asking them to sort of be representative of the different electoral districts, going back to the historical makeup of the districts that we have. And one thing he was sharing is that if you have a wider body, right? So you have your individual district councils and sort of quasi-autonomous, sort of bodies that look after planning and granting of liquor licenses and things that are particular to those districts. So an application for a hotel in a district, an application for a liquor license. There's a hearing of sort in the district because it's going to be immediately impacting that district as opposed to on a national level. But then you have this wider General Assembly that looks after everything. And we say, if we were to have those discussions when we're looking at a reviewing our Constitution, if you're talking about participating more in the democracy and engaging more people, you're not creating this expensive machinery in terms of the amount of people you've elected, but you're creating an opportunity for greater participation and more accountability because it's directly impacting the people. A hotel in East End may only be of concern to people in East End, but perhaps dredging in the Georgetown Harbour or excavating something of national importance somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Well, I look at it from both sides. Yes, obviously there should be some public notice when we are granting liquor licenses in any district.
Okay.
Right? I don't think that we should have separate liquor license boards in each district. I don't think Cayman big enough for that.
Okay. And
the reason why I say that is because, again, we'd have to harvest people who know about these type of things to put in those positions, because we don't want to just put any and everybody there. But I agree with the call in terms that if there's going to be a consideration for a liquor license, that it should be brought to their town hall committees so that they can have an opportunity to have public consultation, whether or not it's something they want within the district. But when we look at the other side of the token, and you see the mechanisms that government have in place in order to generate revenue for our GDP and our annual appropriations in the budget. Not saying that liquor license is a large part of that, but the importation of liquor, the importation of distribution, and these things play a role. And because we don't have any proper strategic development plan in place on what Cayman should look like and how it should be developed, it's hard. It's hard to now create your own set of special circumstances or policies in certain pockets, as opposed to what the general consensus is. So, again, that's a very tricky topic, because the District of West Bay is one of the largest districts. So, and obviously we have laws that you can drink, and you have laws that you can distribute alcohol, and for me, I personally don't like seeing a liquor store in every corner. I don't think that's good for any environment or for any neighborhood or any social. I just think that, but that's just my personal opinion.
All right, Mr. Rankin, if you don't mind me reading this WhatsApp.
Course.
In the studio, we have the good company of Mr. Mario Rankin. Says, good afternoon. Says, I'm a a listener when Mario is on. Tell him, I say, he should come run in West Bay for a seat, and I know he'll get a seat in the House.
Yeah.
I, for one, will vote for him. Now, I really appreciate this listener sharing. It's just a phone number, right?
Right.
The amount of people that message, call, share, some I recognize, some I don't.
Right.
They like, when you are a guest. So publicly, I thank you for letting me use you to generate listenership. Right?
Well, I mean, I sincerely appreciate any positive comments coming from any member of our society, because that's some of the reasons why you do these type of things, is because you want to have these open platforms and conversations. Now, I would imagine that Radio Cayman must pick up an immense amount of pressure for me being on this radio. But you know what? You know what, Sterling? The reality is that whether I'm in this studio or I call in, I can still participate. So they could have all the issues they want. And I don't do it to antagonize anyone, because Sterling, if we not having this conversation, people are gonna continue to run roughshod over us. We're not gonna be that island that has laid down and allowed all of the things to happen to us.
What's a roll over and play did?
No, we're not roll over and play, and we're not going quietly in the night either. We Caymanians, and you know what?
Yeah.
I can state this publicly. I hear people saying, "Oh, because you Caymanian, you feel like you entitled." Yes, 100,000,000% I am entitled to every single benefit that this island have to offer. I am entitled to it. If I am willing and have enough ambition to want to be a part of it, then there should be no mechanisms in place to prevent me from being a part of it. I am entitled to that success. So yes, we are entitled. We're not supposed to be marginalized to opportunities in our country on any level.
Let me ask you, with what you're sharing, and I'll be mindful that I don't speak out of school, but we, you and I both, we have friends from all walks of life, from all parts of the world, and they tell us the successes. They come to Cayman, we welcome into our homes, they welcome us into their lives. We become friends, right? And they say it's the best place forever. So while they're making opportunity and sacrificing, they're building back home, providing for their parents, their children, they're building homes for themselves, they're investing in things, right? Some from, I guess, what we have called first world countries, countries that are part of, the big industrialized, Western world, as it were. And they say they can open up a business here, a restaurant or whatever it is, easier. Not just cheaper, but easier, less bureaucracy, even though there's a lot of hoops to jump through, then they can back home in whatever country they're in, whether it's a European country or otherwise.
Right.
And they're so grateful. But yet, when Caymanians say, well, boy, I'm having a hard time getting through these seam hoops. Yeah. And it seems that it's Caymanians that are blocking them.
Well, let me give you a quick example of history. In Jamaica, when they imported all of that labor from Europe and all over Asia, India, well, that's the same thing. Well, and other parts of the world, from the Middle East and all these places, right? Here's what happened. When they came to Jamaica on that labor train, and they got into an environment where they saw need for a lot of different industries, a lot of the local Jamaican people had owned all of the mom and pop stores and the little conveniences within the parishes, right? And what took place was that when all the Chinese workers came in and they started realizing that, look, we're not used to this type of culture. We're used to our culture and we would like to consume products from where we're from. So they started bringing that stuff in. And then they started opening their own stores that only their people were participating in. Then the Jamaican people started to enjoy that flavor. And then started buying in those stores. So then it ran the local Jamaican shop owners out of business because, one, they couldn't compete with that product because they don't have it. And two, they couldn't compete with the price. And that the people that were brought in on that labor time were all participating in their own personal environment. So then they became the outlets that provided all these things, and that's what we see today. And then in looking Cayman now, where we've outpaced our harvest and we've outpaced the growth of Caymanians by building so many different hotels and different bars and restaurants, that we were by compulsory had to import cheap labor. Now that cheap labor brought along cultures and mindsets, and environment. So when those people came in here and say, oh, well, Cayman don't have a smooth bar. Let me open a smooth bar, but let me find a Cayman to do it with. And they started, and all these little niche markets that you see opening up that are doing very, very well is because that outside influence identified that we didn't have it, and that now we have the right population in order to facilitate that level of business or that type of business. We see where they're very successful. And like you, back to what you said, it's easy. Cayman is relatively an easy place to set up shop and open up something that nobody else is doing. So we need to be good students of history, so that history don't repeat itself. Because when history repeats itself, that means we got it wrong. So we sit here and we have all these conversations about the various issues, and there are a lot, and we suggest certain things that could help those issues from being as impactful as they are to our local society. We all we ask is for someone that's in the power, that's in the position of power, to take on board some of these ideas and implement them, even in the smallest form, so that you can start to see some level of benefit from it, and then we can take it to the next level, and get it up and going. Because if we could hit the pause button right now, and change all the laws and constitution and put in all the infrastructure and facilities that we need, and then hit play, and people start to reap the benefits immediately, you would find very little resistance to some of the ideas that we all collectively have. The problem is that people have an issue processing the time it will take and the resources it will take and the disruption it would be for the current situation that is not necessarily working for the best interest of people. So people have a problem with that process, that change. And that's why we see a lot of resistance. But if we got caller, let's
just take the caller, and the WhatsApp say they agree with you in relation to the being entitled to as well. All right, let's go to the phones though. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Good afternoon to your guest, Mr. Mario there.
Good afternoon. How are you, ma'am?
Afternoon.
All right. Hold us again. I would like to congratulate Mr. Orman there on his recommendations, and I didn't catch it all because I've been in and out moving the bus back and forth. I've been missing it all, but I reached out to him for him trying to see if we can do something about this alcohol liquor licensing racket that be going on West Bay. That's number one. And I would like to ask the question, Mr. Mario, maybe he can probably help us. Pertaining to the port, we see all of these boats out there, look like they're hanging off. All them ships out there that look like they're hanging off, and we've seen a lot of Korean ships and stuff that are hanging off around there. We think that
all right.
I've got an idea what they're hanging off for. Are they part of this development for the port, or if they could check in to see what is about it?
Well, I know some of the larger ships that you see offshore, and because the weather been bad these last couple of weeks, one or two of the large ships, I know one was a large barge, and those are ships that are bringing in material for the extension of the runway.
We see a lot of big ships that got steel and tons of steel coming in.
Yeah.
And a lot of cranes and stuff. I mean, is that
no? What that is, when you see that large vessel with a excavator on top, and what that is it's a aggregate ship that brings in aggregate. It has its own excavator that loads the material onto the trucks. Okay. That's what that is. And you're going to see that quite frequently until the airport is completed, because there's a special grade material that you need for compaction on the airport that is different from what we have available locally. So we have to import that material.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of eases our mind a bit, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, I can assure you.
Okay. But thank you very much for your advice, and I'll just stay listening on
No
there.
problem.
All right, thanks very much. So for the airport now, you're saying that we're going to be extending the runway?
Yeah, they extended it 800 feet.
Into the sound?
No.
Further into the land?
To where we have that bird sanctuary.
Okay.
I mean, we're the only airport in the world that has a bird sanctuary on the runway. But again, let's not talk about what was. We now moving ahead, and they're extending it. I think they were waiting on a group of people to remove the hickey's and some of the other wildlife that's in there before they disrupt that environment. So that material is a special grade material, because remember, when you got larger planes landing on a runway filled with people and fuel, you want to ensure that there's no compromise in that surface that would cause any potential risk to crash. So we can't not be supportive of doing it right. So if we got to bring the material in, we got to bring the material in. End of story. First, huh? End of story.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, this is, again, as we have these discussions, and there are a number of people who maybe hear things, maybe know, may speculate, but for some reason, too many of whatever it is that we learn of is after the fact, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
Where is the information beforehand? Is it that some of us, we don't want to know because, that's your job. Now I'm too busy with this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever it's shared, well, not your place to share that, but isn't knowledge and being informed important currency?
It is. Of course, we need to be informed. We don't have to be experts in everything.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to because the moment that any group of Caymanians don't have to dive into their own personal research about a project that the government is doing, that means the government has done a fantastic job on transparency that removes that fear or that doubt in the general populace mind. And again, if people say, oh, well, damned if you do, damned if you don't. In some cases, some people just love to complain, and that is absolutely true. However, if any politician want to not be a topic of discussion on a public platform, then do what's right for the Caymanian people. It's not that hard to do.
Right. Well, can I give you an assignment?
Of course.
Not necessarily for you only, but I heard one other person ask this question, and heard someone writing the same, asking the same question, but now in writing, right? Says, good afternoon. Could you please find out where is the parking lot for the building that's being built across from the new government administration building? There's that Himalaya building.
Right.
So there's a construction there, and
I think it doesn't that have underground
parking? That's what I thought.
I'm almost sure that is an underground parking to that facility that's there, and I think the property behind it. No, don't quote me on this. I'm with the person who sent the text, trying to rationalize
where the parking
is the parking. But I know that there's some underground parking. Now I don't know if they have some agreement with the landowners behind to clear that off after all is said, and that could very well be the case.
But it comes back to what you just shared, the notion that if it's government, for instance, that information is out beforehand, so that the public, even if the public asks, we say, well, wait a minute, now you asking today? 4 weeks ago we put this thing out and we reminded you. That would be great. It isn't always possible. But that reminds me of something, and I put this on the table. It has affected me sometimes, but I don't want it to be because it affected me that you've seen it personally. But I know it's affected many others, and to the extent that someone said to me, but wait a minute, I know you're in the traffic too, so how come you don't say anything? You got a platform. I say, well, it's really not for me. The West Bay Road, there's a great job with the garden companies keeping that, the median, they put a landscape in there, and then they cut the side of the road.
Right.
But almost on a weekly basis, motorists, family, friends, co-workers, colleagues from other parts, they share, a lane is being cleared, and before you realize it, it's closed off. You hit into a roundabout, and it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason when they can and who they can and how it goes about.
Right.
So it's great that they're safe when they do it. It's great that it's wonderful to maintain and nice and neat. But it's a public roadway, is it not? Should you just be able to block it off, to
do landscaping?
Yeah. And something like that presumably has affected people.
Right.
Again, could we not have a better system in place so that people know when these things are going to affect, especially traffic flow?
I just think that's a small issue.
It is.
And yes, it's an issue for some people.
It's small things, right?
But when we look at, let's just say we made it grow up and look unsightly. Then you'll have a set of people, probably the same set, that's saying, oh, well, why they don't keep it better than they do?
I hear you.
But, everybody won't go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die. But
they say some people so heavenly bound, the north of the good. I mean, you remember that too, right? But I hear you, right? And I understand that it's a small issue. But
no,
then
it's
again,
not. I mean, it's small in comparison to grand scheme, but maybe huge in that in a certain group of people's capacity.
Yeah.
And I'm not discrediting it.
No, not at all.
But when you have one lane closed down on a 2-lane road
Mm-hmm.
that don't normally have backups, I don't see where there's a huge issue.
Yeah,
I know the road in which you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've traveled it a lot, and I've seen where they've coned off one lane in order to do it. And I know that is so that safety is at the utmost.
Yeah.
And up front for the people who are working on the side of the road, because we wouldn't want to see any of those guys get hurt.
Without question. But I interrupt you as we go to the break. One lady said, listen, she has someone come and takes care of her property for her. And they come every week or every 2 weeks. And the idea, she expects them on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday or Saturday or whatever day it is that they come. Right? But she's driving that road. And some days it's a Monday, some days it's a Tuesday, some days it's a...
Right.
She doesn't know when they're going to be doing this thing. And some days it's in the afternoon, some days it's in the morning. Basically, from her, it's like, well, they just do it when they want, how they want, where they want, right? And it's across the board. Now, we talk about other things afterwards.
Yeah.
Maybe don't get you in too much trouble.
No. I just think that I don't think there should be a schedule on when you cut the side of the road.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. That's my opinion.
Fair enough. The news is there. My opinion is that if you don't pay attention to Susan, you and I are going to be in trouble. Let's go to the news. When we come back, more talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Today is the day. Vendors wanting to participate in this year's Heroes Day celebrations have until 5 p.m. today to submit their proposals. The Chief of Protocol said this year's theme is centered around the Constitution and those people who pioneered it. Vendor proposals can be submitted at the Government Administration Building or email nationalevents@gov.ky. Heroes Day celebrations are on Monday, January 27th in Heroes Square. Good afternoon once again. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Mexico says it will not grant transit visas or free passage for hundreds of migrants who have left Honduras in an attempt to reach the U.S. border. The Interior Ministry said officers would check the status of each migrant and offer them the option of remaining in the country legally. On Wednesday, Honduran police fired tear gas after people tried to enter Guatemala without going through checks. Many of the migrants say they are fleeing violence and poverty. And the Duke of Sussex has met young rugby players at his first public event since he and the Duchess of Sussex said they would step back from royal life. Prince Harry laughed and joked as he met children in Buckingham Palace's gardens ahead of the Rugby League World Cup 2021 draw, which he hosted. He also met representatives of the 21 nations playing in the World Cup. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, www.radiokman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. It's open line, and I'm enjoying the excellent company of Mr. Mario Rankin. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Mario, you got 17 minutes left, boy.
17 minutes. Let's go. So before the break, we were talking about, the liquor license and the road cutting and whatever. But just to close that off, I think that stretch of road is one of the most beautiful stretches of road in Cayman.
Because you're going to West Bay.
No, that too. That's definitely a factor.
Thank you.
And I think that sometimes we got to give a little to take a little.
Yeah, man.
So I've never seen where traffic was backed up because they were cleaning the side of the road. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Maybe further down the road they could put up a sign saying work ahead so that people don't get caught off guard when the road merges into the next lane. I've seen where that's an issue. Yes, that I can agree with. But outside of that, I mean, I think it's pretty much a non-issue, really. And that's just being frank. But when we focus in on certain things that generally and fundamentally affect Caymanians, like the trickle-down effect and the projects and what we get from them, like Mr. Ackerman said earlier about the schools and how long they sat idle, and the $40 million now that is allocated to finish up the schools. I just read where a UK company was awarded the contract to finish the schools.
So potentially not a cut, but our school could end up costing $200 million.
Well, it all depends.
Yeah,
I mean, we won't know until they get into works, and I've yet. You know what? I won't go there. I won't go there. I'll say this: based on past experiences, we could expect for it to be a bit more. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the reason is that I know that a lot of the equipment was given away or sold very cheap simply because it sat for so long. Things like that shouldn't happen. Not when we have a first world status and we have politicians who think, and some of them have called themselves God in some cases. So we shouldn't have those type of things occurring in our society. Not in this day and age. So again, we need to take a strong look at our structure and accountability system when it comes to politicians and our people who are elected. We look at this project with the port, and more we dive into it, more and more that we realize that there's a major issue. Royal Caribbean and Carnival Cruise Line directly engaged in a promise campaign to the Jamaican government and the Jamaican people that they weren't able to fulfill. They knew in 2009 when they inked the deal for the Falmouth port that Cayman didn't have a cruise berthing facility, and there was no guarantees that we would build one other than the word of a politician. Yet they insisted on the same promises that they're giving us now about increase in numbers, high volume of traffic, more businesses for the locals, and all these different things. Not one single, and I can tell you, I challenge anybody in this island to go and find one person on the outside of the Falmouth gates that is benefiting from any level of cruise activity in that port. You're not going to find that person, because they don't exist. It's only the people on the inside of that gate that are benefiting, and the outside parishes that provide bus services for pre-book excursions. But again, we look at that situation as an example working model of what not to do. So now that we have Bartlett, who's fighting for, because remember now this is election year in Jamaica. So you got Bartlett, who's fighting to maintain political sovereignty, and you have McNeil, who's lurching in the back shadows, waiting to take over. So you're going to see a lot of revelations come out. I mean, we just heard now where the reason why the numbers are somewhat misleading in Jamaica Department of Tourism list of productions for the year is somewhat off, simply because they are collecting head taxes for ships that don't come to the port. We call them ghost ships. So it's funny how that revelation has just recently come about, and that it's been a clear admission by the Jamaican Minister of Tourism, Mr. Bartlett, that this is in fact the case, and that's the reason why the numbers weren't exactly correct, in which he had published, some weeks before, and have been called out on since because of Mr. McNeil's assertion that the numbers were somewhat falsified. What's very interesting is that last year, March, I think it was, we had a visit from the Prime Minister of Jamaica. And I would venture to say that visit was probably entirely about in convincing the Cayman Islands government, cabinet, that we need to build this cruise pier because it's an essential piece of the puzzle for the Western itinerary, and especially Jamaica, because Jamaica is now suffering in declining of numbers because they can't sell a full ship of the Oasis size for the Western itinerary, so therefore they pull the ship because the Cayman Islands is not a part of that itinerary. And it's not a part of the itinerary by any fault of any island in the Caribbean, but by directly instructions of the cruise line owners. So that's why I shared with Mr. McNeil, and I can share this publicly. He and I speak, on a frequent basis to this topic. And I told him that I will be sharing a copy of that contract and the email exchange that we had in 2011 with our port authority and the cruise line, where they had agreed to tender their Oasis Eye ship. We bought a security facility that we currently still own. We built gangways and ramps. We upgraded the tender service to the double platform tenders, which we use to this day. When government changed, the idea changed, nobody revisited. So he was very interested in that information, simply because that puts the Jamaican government on a foundation, on a leg to stand on and say, hey, but you had agreed to do this, so why did you pull the ships from the Western Itinerary? Why didn't you follow through with this agreement, which would have prevented the disruption of mega ships coming to the Western Itinerary, which has now caused major issues to the decline in numbers in Jamaica. So I just want to make it very clear to the listening public that this is no fault of the Cayman Islands why Jamaica experiencing declining numbers of passengers going to the Falmouth. It is directly the fault of the cruise lines themselves for pulling the trigger to remove those ships out of the Western Itinerary, and nothing to do with any of the Caribbean islands. So I'll leave that there. But what's important is that if we can somehow draft up an agreement for a ghost pair and say, hey, we got a pair out there, but you just can't see it and you can't use it, but we'll collect the hit tax anyway. Now, you and I both know that that's comical and that'll never happen. But again, it's currently taking place in Jamaica. But we must be very responsible in what we do when it comes to our pillars of our economy. We must understand that the current situation that we have now, Sterling, I can tell you this right now, until there is a comprehensive study that is done to identify what is the carrying capacity of the Cayman Islands when it comes to cruise passengers, we are going to drastically affect our overall product. We are now currently experiencing where stayover passengers are not having the best experience that they can have, because even with the numbers that we currently have coming in by cruise is affecting our infrastructure and our overall experience. Negatively. Okay. So we must understand that before we go now and build a cruise pair that is going to only increase and create more disturbance in that quality, that we must find out where is that carrying capacity that creates the perfect balance of a visitor experience in both sectors of our tourism.
But as I listen to you, I'm asking, and I look back to, I was trying to find it earlier so that I could read it verbatim, comments by a number of individuals sort of sharing that collectively, this comes down to the populace, especially the electorate, those who go to the polls to vote or can go to the polls to vote.
Right.
Being informed and engaged. Part of the reason why I say towards the end of the year that if there's a way that we can on this show, make that easier, make it safer, make people feel more engaged, more welcome. We want that. It doesn't mean that we want you to all sing from the same hymnal because you afraid for, dissension and controversy. We just want you to speak responsibly and respectfully. Trust and confidence. It would appear then that in the absence of us as a populace having sufficient trust in the government providing information and confidence in its ability to lead, to manage, and to do the things. Now, information is coming out of Jamaica because of maybe the election cycle.
Definitely.
That this thing is going on. If it isn't for the populace, again, the electorate, to seek information, to disseminate information, to make sure it gets out to the wider public, then we're not only doing a disservice to ourselves, to our future generations, but even to the elected people or those who would like to be elected, because they get there now and they think, well, everything is, what is it they say, hunky-dory? I mean, are we in a house of cards and just dollar house? Or
and you're absolutely right, Sterling. And we must have a social economic impact study. We must have an environmental impact study. We must have a comprehensive carrying capacity study. We must ensure that we understand what our product is. We must understand what the value of that product is. We must understand the quality in which we provide in that product. And the moment that we vary away from any of those things, then we have compromised its entire integrity from being the best product it possibly can. Because if we're saying that we just want to ram jam as many people on shore to collect head tax, then we have deliberately disregarded all of the fundamental issues that it creates by doing that. That is far more outweighing in costs than the head tax itself. So when we look at the revenue generated from tourism, and we say this all the time, 80% come from stayover with only 20% of the injection of people. 20% come from cruise with 80% of the participation of people. Now, if 20% of the people generating 80% of the revenue, 20% of the people isn't creating the same impact on our infrastructure and our environment as 80%. So there is your genesis. There is the globe that telling you what your priorities should be and where it should be. So you want to make sure, one, that we don't jeopardize our stayover tourism, that we do everything in the world to enhance that, and two, that we don't overcrowd our spaces with mass cruise that creates that undesirable experience. I have friends who visit on a regular basis. Just recently over the Christmas into the New Year, they were at the Kempton and they came over and I went to lunch with them and we had conversations, and they were telling me that, look, we didn't participate in any of the local stuff because everything was crowded every day of the week by cruise passengers. Not saying that they wouldn't have went while cruise passengers were there. It was just overcrowded.
Too many.
It was too many. So they weren't able to get the experience that they would have wanted to receive. So we need to, and that's a problem. And I'm saying this directly to the powers to be. That is a current issue that we're facing, and we don't even have the pairs yet. We have 6 ships in town, sometimes 5, sometimes 4. And we see the level of activity that's going on. We need to find out what our carrying capacity is, and we need to turn that into the best experience possible. And the first thing that we need to do by doing so is taking cargo to Georgetown. Creating a beautiful experience out downtown for all of the cruise passengers who are coming in that falls within that carrying capacity.
All right. Final break, Mr. Rankin. When we come back, share with us some more. All right, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Stay tuned.
Don't forget to tune in Monday through Friday for Radio Cayman's local evening sports report during the 6 p.m. news hour.
Taking a look at Radio Cayman's local sports, I'm Dion Anglin.
It is proudly brought to you by King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
Sports fans, tune in to Radio Cayman Sports Extra Show.
Hi, I'm Bruce Lee Colson.
Sports Extra.
This and every Tuesday night, right here on Radio Cayman, 89.9 and 93.9, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Sports Extra, from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. Sports Extra.
Proudly brought to you by King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs.
Proudly sponsored by High Fashion and Design Studio, truly your one-stop fashion studio, located in Cayman Trade Center, 199 Eastern Avenue. Call 945-4415.
Cayman Keswick 2020 starts on Sunday, January 19th at 7 p.m. and will continue every evening at 7 o'clock until Friday, January 24th at the Church of God Chapel on Walkers Road. The speaker this year is Johnson Lamb. Mr. Lamb is the former chairman and CEO of Keswick Ministries. Lunchtime sessions are at the Family Life Center on Walkers Road, Monday to Friday from 12:10 p.m. Cost of lunch is just $5 CI. You can join Radio Cayman each evening at 7 p.m. from Sunday, January 19th to Friday, January 24th for a live broadcast from Cayman Keswick 2020.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for listening and sharing. And thanks equally to Mr. Mario Rankin for giving me some of his time. And, you know, I'm hopeful that there's a people that it's not politics, and it's not being political. And if it is, then for some that's fine. I mean, it's the nature of the game. It's the failed Westminster model to pit one against the other. But that's the system we're under. Maybe it's the reason we need to look more close at that, changing our constitution and changing the MO. But for what it's worth, if we engage in a dialogue and if we even get heated, you watch the House of Commons and all how they sit up and they get back and forth. It's like a comedy show,
It is.
But it's what they've been doing now for a couple of days,
Oh, very long time.
So one my friend tells me, I said, remember the 5th of November. So we don't have to necessarily. But anyway, but as I invite you to obviously share as you wish. I keep coming back and let's look at a WhatsApp. What is it going to take for our populace to engage? Yeah. And I'm not talking about, just in any which way. And
well, I just think that, hey, listen, it's been an interesting 16, 17 months for me, especially during this whole referendum process, because you got an opportunity to see certain elements of society that you heard about, just didn't realize that it actually exists. We were able to have very candid conversation with people who thought that no matter what, it would remain the same. Now they are believers. Mm-hmm. So I would say this is that it is possible for Caymanians to be out of the box thinkers. And then, not everybody is going to be willing to do certain things that, that most of us would do. And we don't expect you to. We understand that not everybody is alike. But I do know this, is that when it's time for us to collectively participate in something that is in the better, and for the betterment of Caymanians and Cayman on a whole, we should all participate. Even on whatever personal level that is, you should participate. Yeah. And you shouldn't create any hindrance to that particular initiative. So when we have this situation where we need to make a decision on what it is we're gonna do when it comes to our tourism product, this is a very serious issue, because it's the second pillar of our economy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us heavily rely on it, whether you're directly in that business or not.
We don't realize it, no?
We don't realize it. So at the end of the day, this is not something we should take lightly, or because Mario said it, or because the government said it, or because somebody else said it. The reality is that it is a very important subject, and it's a very important capital works project that they want to embark on, and all of the issues that surround that is very real.
But what's interesting, and I'm mindful of this because I have not yet had a chance to engage the principals directly. But you know the saying, squeaky wheel gets the oil. Mm-hmm. And sometimes somebody says something that may initially sort of run counter to the government's sort of narrative. Mm-hmm. And then they get either invited to the table and partake of the scraps and the like, given some awards or the like, and maybe that's the first, let me offer you the card, but I work, maybe we'll hit you the stick, or whichever, right? Yeah. But I say that to share that a couple of people have now recently said, isn't it strange that as small as this place is, and it's so easily magnified, that there are some people that in order to get invited to the table, to partake of the feast and to be at the buffet, they go about making noise. And then at the minute now they get to participate in the fat and gaff,
They're going quiet.
Oh,
we've seen that on many occasions.
That's happened. Okay, I wasn't sure.
We've seen that on plenty of occasions.
All right, well.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Just be mindful.
And again, I won't say anything because I don't want to. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be that person that tear down any one of our people. Mm-hmm. But when you elected in this country to take care of this country and its people, and you don't do it, you can get your licks from me. And that's just how it is.
But that sense of accountability, the thing that you shared earlier, that in the absence of, and I say this hopefully correctly, so I would think so respectfully, the electorate, the voters, it is for the voter to be engaged, informed, and involved.
Educated democracy.
Right. So that when you stand alongside a politician that is the sole person saying this is the way forward, that you can, not because you're bribed or that you're, afraid, but because you
informed
believe,
and you believe in what it is.
Exactly.
You're behind.
Or you say, but wait a minute, I'm the only person saying this, but you're wrong, and this is why I believe that you're wrong. That you can, with conviction, stand same way, right? That's what I think our legacy is. But
yeah, I mean, we've seen systematically where governments has fertilized bad ideas, and sometimes it's not to the fault of their own. It's because they have been convinced of something that they didn't really take the time out to really understand the entire consequences of it all. But when someone else come and say, hey, here's a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of views and a fresh set of ideas about this particular thing. Oh, well, you just being anti-government. Don't listen to him. He don't support us. He never did. Blah, 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 blah. Then the discussion changed from what the issue was to where I am politically and where they are politically. And then we get lost in translation. And then the issue that we started out talking about then end up becoming a part of the makeup of what government is doing. And then when we start to feel a negativity from it, then everyone's, oh, well, you did this thing and it's not working out. So that's why it's important that we have the conversation. That's why public consultation is important.
Right. But I think we come back to where we started earlier in the word that I wrote down when our first sort of opening salvos, credibility and character assassination. We seem willing to attack and discredit people.
Yeah.
Right. So that if our perception is that they may have some political aspiration or influence or the like, let's make people think less of them. Not saying that what they didn't happen or that they had some sort of missteps in the past, but we now want to make sure that we make them look as bad because somehow that makes us look better.
Right. And well, the thing is that we need to move away from that mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for this particular case in point that I've been discussing about the cruise berthing facility, is that, and this is as simple as it gets, right? How can a cruise line, how can the two largest cruise lines in the world, let me just say that, 'cause that's the facts, want to increase the number of passengers that come to our shores, and they don't have one single piece of data that says we have what the carrying capacity, what is the sustainable capacity of people, what is the sustainability of having that amount of people on the shores of the Cayman Islands. They don't got one piece of data,
Yeah.
They don't have no data that reflect that.
But let me ask you, right? Or let me ask.
But
is it for an entity like the cruise lines or like a non sort of direct voter, right? An outside to come into an influence? Could that be akin to the Russian hackers allegedly influencing the U.S. elections? I mean,
well, okay. Here's a smoking gun. Last month, the Department of Environment and Tourism, or whichever environment was, that could be corrected, put a moratorium on the number of people that can go to Stingray City, and we don't even have the cruise pairs yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you think is gonna happen if we already experiencing overcrowding and discomforts on that location, which is our number one ticket seller, and we haven't built the pairs yet that's going to bring an additional 1 million people, then tell me how does that make any sense at all?
Right. But let me ask this then. Remember recently and long ago,
it's very frustrating.
People ask, well, why is the North Sound just within the border of the North Sound and going to the sandbar and interacting with the stingrays and having that experience, why is that open to any and all? Why isn't that for the traditional fisherman operator, right? Why is it seen to be a free-for-all? When that was asked, oh, you can't do that because of whichever, yet there's a licensing regime in place to say whether or not you can and should be operating. Now, if you're displacing the people from whom, right? Many of them were my classmates. They would rather subscribe to the mantra, badly fishing is better than...
We have a very badly broken system.
Okay, well, boy, you
we have a badly broken system. The only people on this island that should be benefiting from cruise, from stayover, from any part of the tourism product should be the people of the Cayman Islands. It's our island, it's our product. It's their customer. All I am saying is this, is that it's imperative that we put in place a full comprehensive study that identifies, one, what quality of product we want to have, two, what the number of people will create that quality of product and maintain, and three, how long do we want to maintain that and how important it is to our economy. And in the absence of those things, we are going to create an uncontrollable environment that will find its own demise from a self-destructing point of view, because we have gone now and subscribed to the head tax of it all, as opposed to the fundamental impacts within the society that will create that gap that we won't be able to fill. Because once we have taken a position to destroy the very thing that created that environment, then it's gone forever. So we need to be better stewards of our island. We need to stand up and ensure that there's no money value, there's no dollar value to securing the very same environment that attracts that level of people and activity to our shores. We need to harness that properly and create the perfect balance that we don't destroy it. Sustainability.
Okay.
So I say that, and I'll just say this last thing, which is completely off topic. Thank you, Radio Cayman. If I'm not on this, if I'm not on this platform, on other platforms, but I would just say this, and I say this directly because I know that the East-West Arteria bypass going into breakers from the Hurst Road Junction, I know that the government is planning on doing a little Band-Aid fix because this is the election year, ladies and gentlemen, so they're going to build a short portion of that road to Breadfruit Walk and come out, just so that they can give a couple of people some work and try to say that this is what we're doing during the election year. But be very mindful, people. As much as we need that road, we also need to ensure that we don't put some system in place now temporarily just for political mileage. I think that that there's been proposals from the NRA department to put overhead bypasses there so that it don't disrupt the Newlands Road activity. And I think that the government, Mr. Hugh, because that's your portfolio, I think you should now put in place the necessary funds to put those overheads in now, as opposed to putting some stoplights or a roundabout that you're going to change in the future, which money would be lost. Put the overheads in now. Put it in place now. I support that 100%. But don't take this political sovereignty approach. I beg you. You know, the country itself suffers from it. Understand? Put in overhead bypasses on that junction now. Make that be the example. I mean, we need it at Hurlers more than anything else. But since you guys want to throw this extension of this bypass in on an election year, I advise you, and you have my support, put in the overhead bypasses, even if it costs us a little extra. Have a good day, everybody.
All right. Mr. Rankin, thank you for your time. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me, man. We'll chat again if we're allowed to. All right. To those who are listening tomorrow, please join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. And before he takes, a little sort of, a little jaunt. Everybody needs a little break now and again. And then for us, after the midday news, midday meditation, all the stuff, please join us for Talk Today. Mr. Sean Hennings, he's going to come into the studio and share with us, man. An incredible musician, very talented. Then 1 o'clock, going to focus on some of our track and field athletes. Very, very grateful to the chance to speak to Mr. Porter and his team in a bit. It's amazing what we have here. Now, I enjoy being up by the boxing gym, and I tell you in the evenings, Miss Margot and all of the wonderful, participants, some of the most enthusiastic, industrious, energetic people. Someone when they hit the heavy bikes with them, man, you're glad that you're not the bike because, boy, they take a licking. So to Margot and all of the good folks there, coming to the boxing, it's always a pleasure. If you don't mind me saying, man, it's a pleasure to be there. Thanks for welcoming me in. Here's a little song that Miss Susan is going to play for you. Hey, listen, you got to represent. All right, Miss Susan? All right, till tomorrow. Be blessed.